So the ultimate power rests with elected officials?
In practice, the Conclave and the respective council for each ship tend to set the rules that govern our daily lives. But in theory, we are still under military jurisdiction. The 5 top-ranking military officials in the fleet serve on the Admiralty Board. These 5 have the power to overrule any decision by the Conclave in case of emergency. To do so requires unanimous agreement among the Admiralty, and they can only do this once. After that, the entire board must resign their posts. It's a safeguard that served us well. In nearly 3 centuries, the Admiralty Board has only overruled the Conclave 4 times.
That's not entirely consistent with how the story plays out later in the 3 games. But we won't be too concerned about that. Alright, Geth.
I want to know more about the Geth.
I doubt I can tell you anything you don't already know. It's been almost 3 centuries since they drove my people into exile. All I know is the story of their origins, what they were when we created them, and how they turned on us.
Interesting.
The Geth were originally created to serve as an automated manual labor force. Initially, their intelligence was as limited as any VI. Over time, we made small modifications to their programming to allow them to perform more varied and complex tasks, bringing them closer and closer to true AI status.
You know, I don't know if this story actually explores this properly, but concerning AI, it seems like artificial intelligence that's created for one purpose is much more likely to fail than artificial intelligence created for just general purposes. So the Geth, you see what she's saying here, like the Geth do a lot of different things. Like the Geth doesn't just do one thing, like their manual labor. But you see how she says modifications to their programming to allow them to perform more varied and complex tasks. So the AI is such that they have to do a lot of different things, and so they need to be intelligent in a way that allows them to learn and adapt. You know, if you want to do a lot of different tasks, then you need to, adapt, right? Whereas an AI that is specifically designed for one thing, then the AI would be, I'm speculating, of course it's all science fiction, right? There's no real AI in the real world. But if it's designed for one single purpose, then you would design the AI with incentives to achieve that purpose. And it's very easy for that to become perverse in the way that, if you set out the incentives wrong, or if the AI simply pursues that single incentive to its logical conclusion, then it often does unexpected things because the objectives of the AI is very singular, and it's very kind of it's kind of tunnel vision, kind of just focusing on one thing, whereas the general purpose AI is more likely to be able to consider things intelligently because they're weighing a lot of different options, because they have to do a lot of different things, whereas does that make sense? Whereas a single purpose AI, they only do one thing, and they'll do whatever it takes to achieve that one thing because that's the only incentive they have. And if you pay attention to the story and all the different types of AI that appears in Mass Effect in the 3 games, you notice the pattern is that whenever an AI is problematic, it's always something that's created for one single purpose, and it's always a kind of an unexpected interpretation of their purpose that causes the AI to function in a destructive way. Anyway, I won't talk too much about that, but just kind of see if you can keep that in mind as we kind of watch these stories play out.
How come the council didn't step in and stop you?
This wasn't true AI research. We may have been skirting the bounds of the law, but we never did anything that was actually illegal.
Yeah, good job.
The changes were so insignificant, so gradual, that we were able to control them. Or so we thought. But one thing we underestimated was the power of the neural network. A million Geth thinking simultaneously created an inherently unstable matrix.
So the Geth share brain power?
Many of the Geth's logic systems were designed to work in concert with other nearby Geth. Basically, the more of them you have in the group, the smarter they are.
That's a terrible idea. That is, cause you can't control it. Like once you reach a critical mass, you can't control them anymore. That's just a bad idea. It's a disaster waiting to happen.
So there's some sort of group consciousness.
No, nothing like that. They cannot share sensory data or information.
That's what you
Their
think.
programming cannot handle that much simultaneous input. Each Geth maintains an individual awareness and identity. The neural network only operates on a process-based level. It's basically the synthetic equivalent of a subconscious. But when they're in close proximity, they can coordinate low-level functional processes, freeing up more capacity for original or independent thought.
That's such a bad idea. Of course they get out of control.
That doesn't make any sense.
I'm probably oversimplifying. The Geth are incredibly advanced and complex creations. All you need to know is that they get smarter when they gather in large numbers. As we built more and more Geth, their effective intelligence became more sophisticated, more abstract. One day, a Geth began to ask its Quarian overseer questions about the nature of its existence. Am I alive? Why am I here? What is my purpose? As you can imagine, this caused a near panic among my people.
Yes.
I don't see what's so bad about those questions.
The Geth were created to engage in mundane, repetitive, or dangerous manual labor. That's fine for machines, but it won't satisfy a sentient being for long.
How do you know?
The Geth were showing signs of rudimentary self-awareness and independent thought. If the Geth were intelligent, then we were essentially using them as slaves. It was inevitable the newly sentient Geth would rebel against their situation. We knew they would rise up against us, so we acted first.
How do you know?
A general order went out across all Quarian-controlled systems to permanently deactivate all Geth. The Geth responded to this order violently.
They're AI. They don't have the same motivations as organic beings. They don't have the same emotions, they don't have the same instincts. How do you know how they would react? Well, okay, they defended themselves when you tried to deactivate them.
Hey, you can't blame them for fighting for their survival.
We had no other choice. The Geth were already on the verge of revolution. By acting quickly, we had a chance to end the war before it began. The hope was that most of the Geth would still be little more than machines, incapable of organized resistance.
Nope.
But they had progressed much further than anyone anticipated. The war was long and bloody. Millions upon millions of Quarians died at their hands. In the end, we were forced to flee our own homeworld.
You failed so hard.
We feared the Geth would pursue us, but they never came beyond the veil. Now we drift through space, exiled, searching for a way to reclaim what was once ours.
You failed so hard.
It's hard to feel sorry for you. Your ancestors tried to wipe out another species.
We made a mistake when we created the Geth in the first place. But we did not make a mistake when we went to war against them.
Yes, you did.
If we had not acted, they would have wiped us out. They're a synthetic life form. They have no use for organics. None. Why do you think they cut themselves off from the rest of the galaxy? Why do you think they've killed every organic being who's ever tried to contact them?
They didn't kill Saren.
What does that tell you? The Geth are not innocent victims in all this. They're the enemy. They want to destroy us. Not just the Quarians. All organic life.
Are you crazy?
That's why they've joined up with Saren. And that's why we have to stop him.
If the Geth wanted to destroy you, they've had 300 years to do it. Do you have any idea what a bunch of robots can do in 300 years? They don't sleep. They don't need to eat, or sleep, or drink, or rest. Do you have any idea what a bunch of robots can do in 300 years? Anyway.
I want to know more about the pilgrimage.
When my people reach maturity, we leave our birth ships and seek acceptance with a new crew. It's necessary to maintain genetic diversity among the fleet. But no ship wants to accept someone who will be a burden on them. So, to prove our worth, we embark on a pilgrimage. We set out alone, leaving the flotilla and our families behind us. We only return once we have found something of value we can bring back to the fleet. This is presented as a gift to the captain of the respective ship we wish to join. If the gift is accepted, we are welcomed into the crew.
Can a captain choose to reject the gift?
That doesn't happen often. Most captains are eager to increase the size of their crew. It increases their own standing in our society. Even when the gift is not particularly valuable, the captain usually accepts it out of a sense of tradition. However, there is a stigma to presenting a substandard gift. It's not the best way to make a good impression on a new community. Most pilgrims don't return until they find something worthwhile.
I want to talk about something else.
Like what?
No, that's it.
I should go.
See you later.
Yeah, more experience points, just for talking.
Hey, Commander, you know that Quarian, Tali? She's been spending all her time down here asking me about our engines.
I'll tell her to leave you alone.
What? No, she's amazing. I wish my guys were half as smart as she is. Give her a month on board and she'll know more about our engines than I do. She's got a real knack for technology, that one. I can see why you wanted her to come along.
I figured she'd be a real asset to the team.
You've got an eye for Tali, Commander, but I'm guessing that's not why you came down here.
Fill me in on the IES stealth system. How does it work exactly?
You can't hide a ship out in space. They emit too much heat and radiation. Too easy for sensors to pick them up, unless you find a way to capture those emissions. So our stealth systems trap the energy we give off in storage sinks built into the ship itself. No emissions to give away our location. Eventually the sinks have to be vented. More than a few hours silent running and they overheat. Cook us inside our own hull.
There's no way for anyone to detect us?
A visual scan can still pick us up. Anyone looking out a window can see us plain as day. But you have to be pretty close to get an actual visual out in space. Most vessels rely on scanners. As long as the stealth systems are engaged, they can't see us. Not unless we accelerate to FTL speeds.
Why doesn't it work with faster-than-light travel?
Cranking up the FTL blue shifts our emissions, pushes them into frequencies too high to capture in the sinks. As soon as we make the jump, it's like setting off a flare. Sensors can pick up our location whenever we enter or exit FTL flight, but for short-range missions, our stealth systems are amazing, and we've got the only one.
Where else have you served, Adams?
If you name a class of Alliance ship, I've probably served on it. Everything from dreadnoughts and carriers right down to frigates like the Normandy. My last assignment was on the Tokyo, only a cruiser, but she was a good ship. Couldn't hold a candle to the Normandy, though.
I want to know more about the Normandy.
She's the best ship I've ever served on, probably the fastest vessel ever designed. She's the only one using the new Tantalus drive core.
What's so special about the Tantalus drive core?
Proportionally, it's about twice the size of any other vessel. Not only are we faster, but we can run at FTL speeds longer before we have to discharge the core.
Great.
Carry on, Adams.
Aye, aye, Commander.
Wow, 150 experience points just for talking about drive cores. Alright, so that's pretty much everybody talking for now. Right, so I need to take a break now because apparently we spent a lot longer walking around and talking to people than I expected. So when we come back, or when I come back in the next video for you guys, we will finally go on a mission. We're gonna go find Liara first because I want to fill out the team before we do anything else. Loading screen. So yeah, next video we'll go find Liara. So that's a whole lot of backstory. I feel like we've spent like 4 hours just walking around the city though, doing side quests and talking to people. And I mean, if you haven't... Wait, how did I just pick up experience points? And if you haven't figured it out by now, so this game obviously has a lot of backstory. A lot of backstory. I mean, they've really gone and filled in a lot of backstory. And then they made a lot of voice actors kind of talk about all this stuff for hours and hours as well. There must be so many hours of dialogue in this game. That's amazing. So it's definitely a story-driven game. We've seen some combat, and you can see the combat's not great, but the story is. Alright, so when we come back, we're gonna find Liara. Anything else I need to say? Not really. I mean, a lot of this stuff is just kind of background and introduction. I haven't spent too much time talking about things yet. Because, I mean, for one, I don't want to give too many spoilers if you haven't played the games before. So I want to kind of let the story develop a bit before I start talking about things. But you know, I talked a bit about the AI and things. The Krogan we'll talk more about later on for sure. Anyway, I'll stop talking here. See you guys in the next video.